Yeah, boy, it's July 25th, and it's episode 225, and this is the Fantasy Football Auctioneer Podcast. The Fantasy Football Auctioneer Podcast is the official podcast of the fantasyfootballauction.com, the first website dedicated to fantasy football auctions. We've got a great show for you tonight. Tonight, we're going to take a look at some Auction 101 ideas. We're going to debunk some of the myths out there and give you our own take on some of those ideas. But of course, our analysts, they're always here. I hear he's trying to maybe find a way to get on the annual golf trip. I even put the hat on for good luck, Blister. You having any luck with that?
I'm in, baby.
You're in?
Yeah.
Really? So are we at 13 now?
No, I'm taking the Ski's place.
Oh, he's not. Chris isn't going?
No. He's trying to figure out how to get his wife home and
yeah,
and a bunch of other problems. So I think it was stressing him out. So he's quite relieved that I could jump in, take his spot. So
I didn't know he wasn't going. I haven't talked to him about it because I know he was going back overseas like the day after or something.
Yeah. So I think it was a little just too poor timing for him. So
good timing for Blister.
Yeah. Hey, I thought it was like, what else am I going to do all summer? It's about the only thing I got kind of lined up that was kind of for me, and I haven't done a whole lot. So I got to make this work. The worst thing is I could have been home after this hockey trip that we go on leading up to it. I could have been home Saturday night, but the way the prearranged travel arrangements where I won't be able to get home till Sunday night, but I'll be able to drop off at the course probably at the turn. You guys probably do the front nine, and I should be sitting there waiting to jump on with somebody for the back nine.
Perfect.
So then I'll probably go do the front nine again after you guys are done, just to match up.
Get your score in,
yeah. So
perfect.
That's the game plan.
That's the game plan. All right, and he's finished all his running around. He's back here for the podcast. Sorry, Slim, is that a little too soon?
No, that's okay.
I mean, Blister was doing this one right away.
Yeah. Exactly. Shit happens.
We won't get into it. I didn't say a whole lot. I don't think on the previous pod. You said that the way I wrote it up originally was like, and he's not here tonight because he got into an accident. And I'm like, hold on, I can't write it up. He's not here tonight. It sounds like you're dead. You're not dead.
Yeah, he's not.
No. I'm hopefully far from that, but it's had a little baseball injury.
Baseball injury. We'll just leave it at that. All right. You guys ready to do some auction talking here? It's been a while. It's been a couple weeks since the three of us have been on. All right. Well, if you guys are ready, then I'm ready. Let's cock the hammer. It's time for action. All right. So like I said, we got a great show for you tonight. Tonight, we're going to take a look at some Auction 101 ideas, give you our takes on them, debunk any of the myths that we might see throughout the list here. So this is the premise, guys. I mean, you've seen it on the show sheet, but for everyone listening, and I know if you're listening in July right now, you might not be an Auction 101er. Like, I mean, if you're in and you're listening this early into the draft prep season, you probably are an avid auction drafter. But if you're not, or if you or if you are an avid auction drafter, there might be some nuances here that we pick up on or that we share with you that are going to help you get ready for your draft. So I get all of that. But what I did, guys, is I just jumped on the old Google machine and I typed in how to fantasy football auction. That was it. That's all. And I just clicked on the first link that came up. I won't give you what that is because probably everybody's Google rankings are a little bit different. And I don't want to blast off on whoever is writing the article. It's a good article. It's had good advice. It had good theory behind it. But we'll work our way through some of the ideas that they had and we'll quickly and, like I said, we'll debunk things. We'll give our own takes on it and away we go. But first off, if we're going to make this an Auction 101 type of show, guys, then, of course, people need to know why we're doing auctions. So, Blister, quickly explain, why do you do auctions?
Well, we found that they're a lot more enjoyable, a lot more strategic. They take a little more time, which we kind of enjoy that aspect because we get to, sit around with everybody and tell stories and have a beer and, it lasts a little bit longer. So, and nobody's in a big rush to get home. And Slim's always ran our big auction and he's done a great job with organizing everything from the meal to now it's a golf game and sometimes some years a road trip like it will be this year. So I don't know. It's an event. It's not just not just a draft. It's more of an event when we do stuff, and it's just there's a lot of strategy that goes into it more so than just I pick third overall. Here's these two guys are probably gone. I'll take this guy, and then you can kind of snake draft and all you want, but in auction, you don't know who's going to get nominated and when they're going to get nominated, and at what point, how much money people have left, and so there's so much more that goes into it every time a player comes on the board. So it's just a lot more strategery and a lot more fun.
All right, and Slim, because you're the commissioner league and you moved from snake draft to auction, talk to us maybe a little bit about the hows and whys that all happened too, because if some of our listeners are commissions.
Well, when we first did it, I think it was just to try something different. That was my goal. I know for me personally, why I like it is you can build your team kind of however you want to. In a snake draft, you're really constrained to what spot you pick at. Like if you pick, at the back end of the first round, that there's going to be probably 10 players that you're just not going to have a shot at. So that's my biggest thing, is it gives every owner, to me, a fair ability to build a team kind of how they want to from the same pool of players. You're not bound by any constraints there, where certain players are going to be just off limits to you just based on the luck of where you pick or where you don't pick.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. So that's why. So now let's take a look at the hows and some of the rules and strategies around those hows. So again, I just Googled how to fantasy auction, and this is the first site that came up. So in no particular order, I'm not picking on anybody. We're not going to throw out the names of the article or whatever else. But this is what, if you're a 101 person, you're typing that in, and this might be something that's coming up. So there's a list of rules and or strategies here that this site tells you that you should be following in your draft. And so let's just kind of go back and forth maybe with each one as a starting point, and then we'll start with the next guy for the next one. The first idea here is to avoid bidding wars. So it says here that one of the easiest mistakes in an auction draft is to get carried away in the moment when bidding on players. When another member of your league is hell-bent on acquiring a certain player, no matter what the cost, the best strategy in 99% of those situations is to step aside and let them overbid. Slim, what do you think about that advice as far as avoiding overbidding or bidding wars?
I think for me, if it's somebody I actually want, then yeah, you definitely don't want to get in a bidding war. Like we've all been there where you're trying to fill maybe, your wide receiver 3. You had a range of players that you wanted to go there. That's dried up quick. I know it happens a lot in super flex leagues where maybe it's your second quarterback, and now you're kind of in panic mode because there's only 1 or 2 names left of players that are actually palatable on that spot, and now you feel like you have to go and get that guy. And there's nothing worse than knowing that you're bidding against someone or a couple other people for this same player with no backup plan, and you're going to just have to essentially buy them for whatever it costs. Right. So we've all been there. So definitely avoid that. Like this is where you got to try and see it coming so that you can do something before that happens. You never want to be, and we've talked about that. If you've listened to us before, if you're new, cool. This is all might be super helpful. If you've listened to us before, you probably heard us say this, right? You never want to be in that spot to make that happen. But sometimes I actually like getting in bidding wars, mainly when it's a player that I think is either going for too cheap. So call it a price enforce, which some people say never price enforce. And I personally disagree with that. I like to price enforce. If you're confident that if you win the player, maybe accidentally, you can still make it work, and that's fine. I don't like giving people value. Right. And I'm going to be aggressive to try and make sure people are paying what I think they need to pay for certain players. So if you want to call that a bidding war, go ahead. But I'm not trying to actually buy the guy. I'm just trying to make somebody pay up more. So those are the times when I would use those.
We kind of mentioned that last week. It's not the bidding war, it's the price enforcing, making sure that.
Yeah, 100%. That's what we call that. So, but yeah, that's kind of how my thoughts, at least on this whole idea of trying to get into these bidding wars with people. Sometimes it's strategic. If it's somebody you're actually wanting to use, then definitely you don't want to be in that spot. So you got to try and see it coming. look for in your tiers, like if there's say 10 players in that tier and you're getting to about 5 left, you either got to start thinking, what's my backup, or I got to start being a little more aggressive, whether that's nominating some of these guys to get them out there just so I can see if I can get one, or again, making that pivot to some other tier or some other plan.
Right. Okay, Blister, what are your thoughts on bidding wars and or price enforcement?
Well, there's not really much I can add to what Slim said. I think, if there's somebody you really want, I think you should never be, when you go into your auction, you have a budget set for your player, your position sort of thing. But if it's somebody you really want, then like we said before, you don't hesitate to maybe go 10% higher than what you had budgeted. So we got a guy for $40 sitting there. You kind of want him, looking at what's on the board, what's left. So don't hesitate to go up to 44 or 45. After that, it's probably getting a little expensive, but you have to look at your sheets and you have to look at what's left, because if you bow out because it gets to 47 or 48, and now there's nothing really out there that's worth $45 or $30, like is there enough players left on the board to reinvest that money or not? If there's not, just keep going.
Might as well go. Good point.
Again, there's a lot of factors that come into it, and price enforcing, like we all don't want to see somebody go too cheap. If we see, like, for example, Saquon Barkley's sitting there, freshly signed contract now, and he's sitting there at $30. We're not going to let that go, and we're going to want to make sure he's going up into the 40s, mid 40s probably. So we're going to keep going. If we get him, that's the one thing you have to be careful for. If it's somebody you're not interested, you might not want to price enforce to the bitter end, because you might end up, maybe you get somebody you don't like, for example, maybe you get them for $35, but the price on the market was 40, but you're going to be stuck with that guy. It's definitely going to take away from your ability to get the guy you wanted later, because you're going to not have the funds left. So there's a lot of factors that go into it.
For sure. So now, guys, there's in each of these theories or strategies when it comes to auction drafting, there's also like an action. It gives you something that you should be doing now to help you prep to get there. So for this particular one, again, we're going through auction 101 stuff. Participating in some mock drafts will help you to kind of get a general idea where guys are going for and what your salary rankings should be. So mock drafts, what do you think about that, Blister? Because I know you probably mock a little bit more than Slim does. What do you think about that as far as your bidding strategies and practicing things there?
It depends if you can get actual people doing the draft, or if you're just signing up on a site, Yahoo or somewhere, ESPN, and there's 2 live people and 10 robots drafting, because it's not going to be too accurate. It's a fun practice, I guess, if it's a couple times just to get a feel for roughly what players are going for. But the best thing you can do is try to get 12 guys together and have an actual mock auction to get a better feel. And you got to remember, like, probably the more you can do, the better, because every auction is going to be slightly different. But it does, excuse me, beer's kicking back. It does give you a good grasp on the bidding process and nominations and things like that. So even though the prices might not be 100% accurate, the bidding and the nominating and the strategy that goes behind that, try to practice balancing with the auction. Try to nominate guys you like sometimes, not just guys you don't like. So there's some merit to mock drafting for sure.
For sure. And then if you want to try to find mock drafts, Twitter's a great place to be. There's guys that are posting stuff all the time. Jump into this mock, jump into that mock, so that at least you're going to get 12 guys and not 6 bots and 5 other guys, and 3 of them bow out after they buy Saquon for an exorbitant amount of money. So, but I mean, I think, Blister, you make a good point. If you're not familiar with auctions, getting into a mock, even if it is all bots, gives you a little bit of a feel for the process, right? But I don't know, the bidding part of things makes it a little bit tricky if you're not there with actual guys that have something on the line. So in the last part here, and I'm trying to figure out the nuance of this last statement in under avoid bidding wars. So simply writing out key numbers can help you visualize and set hard stops if the bidding gets too high. So is that, I'm guessing they're just talking about having some sort of AAV in front of you.
Yeah, I'm assuming they must mean a price that's here's your ceiling for every player.
Right.
Which, if you listen to what we do, we kind of tell you to do that. Like when you make a budget, for example, for me, I know how much I can spend at my wide receiver one. So
Right.
I'm going to stay within that ballpark. I don't necessarily maybe write down an exact hard number. Later on in drafts, you probably will do that because if things get tighter and maybe you only got $15 left to spend on 6 guys. So now it's obviously much more imperative to know where you stand in terms of your money that you can allocate, because you can all of a sudden run out, and that's never good, right? So, yeah, I mean, hopefully I guess that's common sense, but hey, we've done that for you. You become a premium member, or you can take all of our auction values that come from real drafts, and you can use that.
All right. So on that note, I had someone email the other day asking for, well, actually it was Shay. We talked about this Slim last week, Blister and I, but where are some good sites to get auction values? And so I told him the answer was that, like, you going to Yahoo or ESPN or those types of things don't really give you a real feel for it, because it's mocks, and real drafts. It's all kind of blended together. And what Slim does is he goes on to real drafts that where money was on the line, and finds their draft boards and then works out the averages through that. So it's not a formula. It's like going to Fantasy Pros and it just says, oh, the 103 goes for X amount of dollars or whatever it is. So actual real life drafts, and that's where we're getting those dollar values from. So if you go to the website thefantasyfootballauction.com, you can see a little preview of what that sheet looks like. But inside the membership area, you can get the sheets, which we've talked about before, which is our consensus rankings with the AAVs. We've added the new Slim. I added that new column for you there, the percent budget, so that you can see if you're trying to allocate 25% of your budget on something, then you can quickly give it a look and say, oh, that's 22% of a $200 budget. So it does the math a little bit quicker for you. But you also get Blisters tiers, my tiers, my cheat sheet Slim's tiers, and that's $7.95. You go over to the other side, the premium preseason, and over there you get the premium podcast. Slim dropped one today. What was the topic, Slim?
I started looking at how people should look at constructing their rosters, how you figure out what type of roster construction you need for various leagues.
Awesome.
Depending on scoring and stuff.
Okay, so Slim put out a premium podcast 2 days, so you get access to those. You get access to all the sheets, but then you also have access to a direct line to us. So we have an email address on there that only members have access to, and you can email us directly if you're looking for roster construction ideas. Like Slim was just saying, if you're looking for budgeting ideas, maybe you have some little nuances in your league. It's a 0.33 points per carry, and how does that affect the overall AAV? So we can help you with some of those things too. So that's $14.95. So head on to the website, thefantasyfootballauction.com, and check it out. Anyways, Slim, we also talked last week just on this to sign off on the bidding here. Not of a hard cap, but the kind of a general idea of maybe 10% over AAV, or over kind of what guys are going for, what you've budgeted. That's a rough kind of line, not a hard line, but kind of a soft line. So, $40, other guys have 42, 43. Maybe I'd go to 44 or 45, roughly 10%. What do you think of that idea as a rough guideline?
I like it because I think Blister mentioned this. Like, I'm a firm believer in when I make my budgets, I do it with certain players in mind. Like, I know that this is a guy that maybe I want as my RB1, or these are the quarterbacks that I want. And so if I go into a draft and I see that prices are inflated, or this one guy that I want, it seems attainable, but maybe he's going to go a little bit higher, I'm a big believer in you get your guys. Like, if this is a guy that you want, then you go and you get him. Now you have to know when to kind of ring that in. But if it costs an extra $5 for a player that's going for 45, to me, that's not the end of the world. You should be able to make that up. So I definitely don't mind, especially early. Again, like, this is a big thing where some people, and I probably will come up in some of these rules, not to nominate certain players. Like I like to have, if I can be one of the first players to have the majority of kind of the studs, I guess you'd call it, in my lineup, to me, that gives me a direction. Like I know, or maybe, I fill my first 2 quarterback spots fairly quickly in a super flex. Now I know what I have left at other positions. Like it's given me this path where things have become clear to me, clearer. Maybe I bought Travis Kelce. Okay, now I know what the rest of my budget looks like now. I don't have to guess anymore. Like I know exactly what I'm playing with here, what moves I need to make to kind of take money away from this or add money to this. So again, if it's a guy you like and it's early and you want to spend a few extra bucks to go get him, go ahead and do it. To me, you've got a guy you like. Plus, it's going to give you the flexibility, the clarity to know exactly how things are maybe going to shape up. Well, some other guys are going to be left maybe guessing a little bit. Or, plus, there's nothing better, and you guys have probably all been there, when you're pretty much filled up at a position where you're good. And now you can maybe price and force a little bit. You still have flexibility. I win this guy. I don't mind him. I'll take him as my RB4. But you can make sure, this guy's RB needy. He's bidding on this guy. Well, let's make sure that he pays the exact price, doesn't get a discount. So it gives you, again, flexibility. You know where you're kind of headed, and you can kind of play little games, for a bit anyway.
That way. Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's get into the second point here, and Blister will go to you on this one. So the second point here is nominate undesirable players. So the theory behind this is that this is a small but easy way to get ahead in an auction draft. Since you'll obviously have a list of preferred players, one way to gain an advantage is to try and break other people's budgets by getting them to bid on players you'd rather avoid early in the draft. Blister, thoughts on nominating undesirable players, in particular, as it states here in the earlier in the draft? Maybe let's say that top third or top 25%.
Yeah, absolutely. I will throw guys out there that are going to cost people money, and when people don't have money, it changes their whole outlook and their comfort level, of what they're doing. So in drafts where some people throw, like, we don't use kickers or defenses anymore, but some of them early on. And it's like, what's the point? Like, someone's going to probably steal them from me for $2, and at this point, they're not.
I made them spend an extra $1 though, Blister, on a kicker.
Yeah, exactly. But then at that point in time, like, they still have $198 or whatever. They're not worried they got their kicker, and so it's much different though when you throw somebody out there and he goes for $55, $65 that gets spent. That's a big chunk of somebody's budget. Now, once that happens, now they're thinking about what they're going to do next and how they're going to save money. And, they might not even be focused on the next bid or two because maybe they went way over their budget. So I like to get guys out there. And like I mentioned probably last week with my tier sheets, like once it gets closer to the auction, I'll color them a certain color, the people that I don't really want, so that when it comes to my turn to nominate, and it could be for whatever reason, maybe there's some question marks in camp, maybe they've been banged up a little bit, coming off an injury, disgruntled, whatever the case may be. So I'm going to throw them out there, and knowing that I don't really care for them anyways, and hope that people spend their money, because that's the name of the game. You want to make your money go the farthest and make everybody else's not go that far. So they're going to get a good player, and that probably, but it's just not the one that you wanted. So put them out there and let them have at her.
All right, Slim, how about you? Early in the draft, we nominating guys that are undesirable? I have a feeling you have maybe a little bit of a different feel on this sometimes.
Well, I like to mix it up. Sometimes I throw a guy out there I like, sometimes I don't. And plus, it again depends on a lot of it. Depends on plan. And I'll use an example in a super flex league. In most leagues, Mahomes, Hurts, and Josh Allen get nominated very early.
Sure.
So if you want one of those guys, essentially they're going to set the market for quarterback, right? Like, they get thrown out. If you want, I'm trying to think like Lamar Jackson, they're going to set the market, and Lamar Jackson's going to go for $5 less than, one of those guys, maybe the cheapest guy of those three, most likely. So if you want one of those guys, you say you want Lamar Jackson, maybe you throw him out. You got the first or second or third nominate, throw him out if that's who you really want, and see if maybe what his market price is, because whatever he goes for, Mahomes is going to go for more. Nobody's letting him go for less. And now you're not letting things kind of fall as chalk. Maybe you get a discount, maybe you don't. But that's got a little bit of a risk you run. But I'm, if you don't want to do something like that, I'm kind of like Blister then. I might throw out some guys that I don't really like. It's, again, the beautiful thing too is maybe somebody throws out Mahomes with their first pick, and that ends up being a guy you want, and you buy him. Now, cool. I can just nominate
now you're set.
quarterbacks here for a while that are expensive because I got mine. Let's see what everyone else is going to pay. Let flush everybody else's money out. Or I might do that with an RB1. I might only want to take one high-end one. So if I get one early, cool. I'm going to nominate a shit pile of running backs the rest for the next 3 rounds. Anybody that's worth a considerable amount of money, I'm throwing them out there. I'm making people pay. So yeah, it varies. It varies on your rooms, who you're playing with, what the format is. I think there's lots of different little nuance there that you can kind of mess around with a little bit. And sometimes I'll try and sneak in a guy that maybe I do like, that I've downplayed, and maybe I can get him at a discount, especially if depending where he is in a tier or something, and the couple of the big dogs in that tier are gone, and now you try and sneak this guy in, and when some people, there's been a run on something or a bunch of receivers, and now I can throw in a running back that kind of goes under the radar a little bit, and people are looking at receivers now, and they kind of catch some people sleeping. But it's tough. To me, there's no real wrong way to do it, but there could be a strategic way on how to flush out money.
For sure. And I'm also thinking it depends on if you've won anything or not too, if your roster is kind of set or if it's not set, right? If you're thinking you're going to go high RB1 and you don't have one yet, then maybe you need to get somebody out there so you can start to set your lineup and go, okay, I'm going with plan A, not right now, right? So, or if you've already got your RB1 and you were going to go RB heavy, then you're like, okay, good, I got my one, and now I kind of know which way my draft's going to go, and let's go get it. So I think kind of where your roster's set up already too. And it says early in the draft, and I'd count that like the first quarter, maybe first third of the draft, not necessarily round 1.
True. Yeah, for sure.
So, okay. All right. And then it says the action here, again, it's a little simple prep can go a long way to achieving an edge. So write down the rankings of your players and yada, yada, yada. Go to our website, pay $8 and get it all done for you. And you get all of our rankings, you get all of our tiers, you get all of our whatever. But yeah, you could go and sit down and write down dollar values and do that on a piece of paper if you want to as well. All right, let's go on to number 3 here, boys. And number 3 is be ready to jump in on value in auction drafts. So the theory here is that auction drafts can be longer and at points, while even get a little tedious, especially if there's a run on a lot of players that you're not interested in nominating. That said, it really pays to watch every bid. Players will often come up at certain points in the draft who, for one reason or another, just don't generate much interest. Maybe there's a couple of bidding wars in a row and the aggressive managers have tapped out, or possibly there's just low sentiment around that player. Either way, value is value. And so snaking a guy during those times is good. So I let Blister start the last one. What are your thoughts on there? I mean, the middle part of the draft when things get a little bit crazy, that's where value is. I don't really know where the strategy is here, but your thoughts on the middle and finding value.
Yeah, I think to me the value's the king kind of what you should be trying to accomplish in an auction draft is
right.
Always. It doesn't matter if it's your QB1 or your wide receiver 6. Like, you want to try and get guys that are going to outperform what their value is. That should hopefully help you win. But so yeah, you got to be ready. It's easier said than done. Like, to me, the easiest time to be ready is when you have everybody's kind of got those first couple starters filled. You still got a decent amount of money still left in your budget. Maybe around, say, $80 mark if you're playing with a $200 budget. Once everybody's kind of down to that $1 or $2, there's obviously values are done. Right. Everybody's cost what they cost. It's going to be dirt cheap. But you see it a lot with, say, the tier maybe 4 or 5-ish of receivers where everybody's trying to get kind of their wide receiver 2, finish that off, or wide receiver 3s. There's often a few values there. So yeah, you just kind of got to be ready. Maybe it's a player you never really thought you'd roster. You thought, shit, he's going to be way too expensive. Goes for $20. I'm not going to have that much for a wide receiver 3. I need a $10 guy there. And lo and behold, somebody's there, and you're getting ready to pounce. But again, that's just all being flexible, having a flexible budget, and paying attention. So,
right,
which I think just about everybody kind of does. It can happen, but again, if you're listening to this, you're probably right. Ready. So you should be ready to do that stuff.
Yeah. So Blister, I mean, I think you're going to say yes to the, wait and be patient on value. The action part here, I think, is interesting for this particular one. So sometimes just putting out an early bid can do wonders for driving out competition. Most players get nominated for $1. So raising the bid by a larger increment, by let's say going from 1 to 10, can often give you the appearance of being a wild bidder and scare other managers away who want to avoid bidding wars. If a player's fair value is 20 and you raise it from 1 to 14, you may get lucky and just snag it for cheaper. Like, is that a strategy that you've tried? Do you see that type of thing work? Does that help you find value?
Yeah, I think you have to. I'm not sure if it's going to drive the value or not, but I do think it's a strategy. You can't be predictable, and every bid can't be the same 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to throw some different numbers in there. You got to switch things up once in a while, and I think even going back to what we were just talking about, like paying attention and being ready to jump. Yeah, auction drafts are long, so people have to take a pee break. People get up and move. They take those chances. I think every year we go, who was that just went? Because we just get talking and bullshitting and talking about a player or what we just watched on the highlights or whatever.
And Slim gets rattled. Well, I don't know. You weren't paying attention, man.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And the other thing is too, some people just get all nervous or excited, like when they're in their draft, like they just they're panicking, so they're just thinking about what just happened, and they're not even realized who just got nominated all of a sudden, and they're not on top of things. And I just say this because I know from not even from our live one so much as just from sometimes to do online with people.
Well, I was gonna say, I'm glad you mentioned online. To me, that's where things can actually be worse, because you might have a couple tabs going. Bids are flying like crazy, especially if you're that guy. That's where I like pushing it, because it gives less people time to think. Like, there might be a guy that goes up and he's $12 guy, and you've got from 1 till 12 as it goes up 2, 3, 4, blah blah blah. To think about what you want to do. If you just bump it there, now everybody, whoa, shit! I got to decide. I got 10 seconds. Clock's running out. Do I bid? Blah, blah, blah. And then now they're flustered. And then the next guy gets nominated, and they're still trying to go and make sense of what happened and click tabs. And so you got to mess with people, I think.
Oh, you have to. That's a great point, because they're probably looking to try. Okay, what, he just went up to 12 already? Oh, what's he worth? What's his value here? And then you go back. Oh shit, I missed him. Oh, that was a good deal. Damn it! Like you're
well, and some of those situations online too, I like to type in the number. If you're going to upgrade, you're making sure you're typing in that number online, because that +1, +1, +1. Oh, geez, it was just at $5. I thought I was going to 6. Now I just went to 17. Like, you know what I mean? And just like that, and you didn't even realize that someone had just thrown in an extra $10 on the bid.
Or 80.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah, or 80. Yeah. So, I mean, okay. So, yeah, we're trying to find value, but I think that's important, right? You got to stay engaged throughout, and the middle parts can get a little bit tedious. Even the middle, but I would say just after the middle, like, that 50 to 75% of the draft, I think, is where most guys got the rosters filled. They don't have a lot of money. They're waiting for the $1 and $2 guys to come up. And I think you can, that's where your bread's buttered a lot of times, is right in that kind of zone. So you got to be on it. You got to be paying attention, make things easy on your sheets so that you know whether you're coming or going every time a guy comes up. So, all right, good. Now the next one, Slim, will come back to you. So, watch what other managers are doing. All right. So while an auction can take a little bit longer, and you may have a little more downtime built into them, using that time to keep an eye on your opponents can have a massive advantage. So how different teams are being built, building their rosters can and should affect your strategy on who to go after and who to nominate. So Slim, I mean, this is probably pretty obvious, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you should always be trying to when you can. I know I find it easier in a live draft to keep track of than online, believe it or not. I think most people would think. But online, to me, things are happening so quick that I sometimes don't have time to click on everybody's roster and say, what positions do they still need? Like in a live draft, usually you can kind of see it more freely. But yeah, for sure, if you can keep track of what everybody's got, one, it tells you, like, again, if you're full at a position essentially, and a lot of people still need receivers, well, guess who I'm nominating? Like I'm throwing these guys out. I want to flush money out. Hopefully it gives some values for me, maybe in other positions that I need later on. And again, it helps you avoid bidding wars. I know it's happened where you can look and say, oh crap, there's me, this guy, and this guy. We all need a wide receiver too. And there's really one guy left that I think most people would really want. So this is going to suck. Like, so either you think about how you're going to change your plan maybe, or you're tightening up the gloves a little bit and saying, well, I guess we're going to get into a little battle here. So do I have the funds to take this all the way? Right. So, it definitely pays to see what everybody else has.
Right. And so Blister, taking a look at other managers, obviously that's an important skill. What's your strategy there, and how do you use that to your advantage?
Well, I try to keep a running budget on everybody's budget. So like we were saying, not only what do they need for position, but how much money do they have left, right? So if they're getting down there and there's a solid player left on the board, I know they can only go to a certain number perhaps, and they still have to fill out the rest of their roster. So those are pretty important things to think of. A lot like what Slim said, like if they're, there's a pretty solid wide receiver too, we'll use the same example, and there's a few guys that want him, then you have to really understand how much money they look like they're going to be willing to spend on that guy and stuff like that. So, and how high are you going to be willing to go? And if not, where are you going to put that money? So yeah, I think with an auction, and like we like to keep that, like in our live ones, have the boards up there for everybody and have all the values written down, and we're constantly doing a running total and trying to keep tabs and all that kind of thing. But it is very important to do that, because if there's if everybody's got two quarterbacks already and you're looking for that last one for yourself, then people aren't probably going to spend a whole bunch of money on a third one. So maybe you don't have to budget as much for that either. So you can kind of guesstimate and move money around on your sheet. But like I said before too, or Slim said, or we all said probably, but if you can knock down or like solidify a position or two, then you really can start looking at moving money around. Like if you really wanted to spend $90 on your RB1 and RB2, and you did that, and you right on the money, or you saved a couple bucks or less, you don't need to spend big bucks on that position anymore. So you can start moving things around, getting guys out there that are going to cost people money, knowing that you wouldn't have been able to afford them anyways, kind of thing. So just watching all the boards and putting people out there. There's no sense nominating if you're in a single quarterback league and 10 guys have their quarterback. There's no sense nominating another quarterback, because it's not going to probably draw a lot of money. Try and find a position that looks like there could be a fight. It could be a good bidding war, and get that out there.
Right. Okay. Good point. And that's something I'm going to add to my cheat sheet is rosters on the bottom with running totals, so that it's all in one sheet. Like when we do our live draft, we have a live link, and you could click it or see it or whatever, but in a lot of live drafts, that's not the case. So you want to make sure that you've got that there. So I'm going to add that to the template on my spreadsheet too. So it's one more kind of layer there, and it would be real easy. You could copy and paste the player's name, type in the dollar value, it's Mahomes, $45, boom. And then it should kind of be there ready for you. So something I'm going to work on adding, so that it can still print into one sheet too, if you want to bring that in as a hard copy instead too. So it's something I'm working on. All right, guys, the next thing here, and we'll start with you, Blister. These are now, according to the website, ready? Next level auction strategies. They're next level. All right. The first one here is strike early in auctions while others are settling in. So the theory behind this one is while big names like Jonathan Taylor and C-Mac and Cooper Kupp will generate tons of bidding regardless of when they're nominated, oftentimes the second tier players will go underbid early in the draft because nobody wants to overspend early on those types of people. So being aggressive on the first couple quality players that come up can often lead to some of the best deals in the draft. So is this something you see, Blister? Is this something that you're trying to key in on?
Well, yes and no. Like sometimes when you nominate a guy that maybe isn't your top tier running back, for example, because everyone has money, sometimes they're excited because the draft is starting. Like, this is a big day, right? Sometimes that'll backfire because they'll pay way more for that guy and the guy that you wanted perhaps is not going to be affordable now, and then those bigs are still going to garner that much money down the road. So, but on the flip side, like we said before, it's kind of like that auction use. So if you nominated let's say, I don't know, say Nick Chubb, pretty good running back, but there's probably 4 or 5 they got ahead of him. If you nominated him, you might get a bit of a deal because people think, well, I want Christian McCaffrey still, or I want Bijan, or I want Saquon, or anybody, Jonathan Taylor is still out there. So if there's 4 guys that potentially could be higher ranked than him, people are going to say, I like him, but I'd rather, if I'm going to spend this much money, I'm going to save it and spend 5 more, even if I have to, on Jonathan Taylor or something like that. So that definitely works. And we keep alluding to it all the time, but it's a real factor, that auction U. If you can get a guy at the bottom of the U, you're going to save money typically.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Slim, thoughts on this early in the draft while people are settling in?
I think it can work. I can think of instances where, again, it comes down to, I think, who's nominated. Like, I think of even last year, a couple drafts I was in, I can vividly remember, say you nominate maybe the RB4. He goes very early, before any other running backs or very few other running backs. And people don't know what to actually spend, right? When somebody's the first off the board, that's maybe not the consensus best player off the board at that position, then I think it makes some people gun shy because they don't want to just go out guns a-blazing, buy this guy for $60 and then see, I guess who would it be this year? Christian McCaffrey go for 55. And now they feel sick. They're like, Jesus, I just spent $60 on Saquon Barkley this year. And Jesus, I could have got him for less or whatever, right? And so some people get gun shy by that. I think they said in this article, it doesn't always work. It takes a little bit of nuance. For sure it does. But
knowing the room,
again,
right?
Just being ready. Maybe you didn't want to spend $50 on your running back, but if you see a $60 running back going for 50, you might say,
hold on.
All right. Yeah. I might jump into this pool here, and then do I have the flexibility to make it work? And if it's early, you probably could make it work. So I wouldn't be scared of doing that, right? You found a value. You still got time to manipulate things to make it work. Plus, you probably got a player that you liked. So you've checked a lot of boxes there, even though it maybe wasn't your initial plan. So I wouldn't sweat stuff like that. And I would look for it.
That's where the auction allows you to be flexible. It doesn't have to go off the board chalk, right? And so, you throw out Damian Harris for $1 in the first round. Damian Harris, what the hell? Okay, so maybe you get him for $2 or $3 or whatever it is because no one else wants it. Just saying. I
like your example here.
I'm just picked a name.
Is he winning you the league?
Well, no, but he's, he's maybe you flex him or maybe whatever. But I'm just saying early, right? And you saved a couple bucks here, or that maybe that wasn't a great example. I just was looking on the running back sheet.
So what if you throw Tony Pollard out as the first running back?
Sure.
What do you throw? Or what's he go for? You don't know.
Super flex, you throw out Jared Goff early. You got him as your 2. But you get your 2 early at a decent deal. So now okay, I got my 2 set already. Now I can go after a 1. You know what I mean? Like, it just allows you to do different things, the auction. It doesn't have to go off the board chalk. I think some guys get stuck on that. They're just looking on the top 200 list and they're nominating 5th and they're like, okay, those top 4 guys are gone. This is my next guy up, right? When I've said it before, like, there's only so many things you get to control in the draft. and nominations are one of them. So be strategic. And like Blister and I were talking last week, like you might only get 18 or 20 nominations in the entire thing. So like you've got only that many opportunities to do something, right? So you might be able to sneak a deal out, but again, it's knowing your room. You're not going to go early Roshan Johnson, and you got a big Bears fan there, and you know you're not going to get a deal on him, but maybe you do it because you know you're going to be able to drive them up. So there's different reasons for why you would nominate early. So that's all I'm trying to say there. Fair enough. Okay. All right. So so the action here, this one requires a lot of subtleties and quick reading of the room, which is what we're just talking about, but maybe that second tier guy could be somebody. Perfect. Okay, Slim. The next quote unquote next level auction strategy is have an auction end game plan. So the final round of nominations in an auction draft can often be some of the most important. The final rounds probably is what he meant to say. Most important and vital for putting together a solid overall team. Once teams are left with just a few spots to fill, the player pool becomes sparse and few quality names remaining. So if you have a budget left, then you can potentially take advantage by nominating players with larger than $1 bids. So Slim, thought, like, what's your type of plan when you're heading into the end of the draft? It's the last 10%, last 15% of the names are on the board. What are you thinking? What are you doing?
Well, ideally, I like to try and have the flexibility to have, honestly, $2 at my last few positions and then a little bit more. So say I've got 7 spots left. I would like to have somewhere around probably $16 or so. People always talk about how great it is to, the dollar. You can throw some names out for $1, but I think what most of us tend to find, it gets very hard to throw out those dollar guys that you like because they're going to get scooped up for $2 or more. And now there's nothing you can do. So you end up in this lull where either you're throwing out a bunch of guys that you don't want, and that's fine. Yep. Like you're just wasting a nomination essentially for somebody to buy somebody that you don't like, which is fine. But you don't really have any control on getting any player unless you actually nominate them and nobody upbids you, which is rare a lot of the times. So I like to have the flexibility where somebody can nominate a guy that I actually like for $1, and I now have the power to say, well, I'll take him for $2.
Right.
And now maybe that's the end of it, right? Or maybe I got to go to $3. That way I'm still getting the flyers that I like. Now, sometimes you don't have the flexibility to do that at all. Just the way things have gone down, you're just tight on funds, and you kind of got to sit there and eat it and just keep going farther and farther down your flyer sheet. But if you got the chance, then I like to try and keep some of that money and keep pushing it down my budget down the board, so that at the end of the draft, I can still control some things, even though I'm not nominating. Like I can still get players, and I don't have to rely on me trying to sneak them in all the time, which I find very hard to do in most cases, as I'm sure you guys do too.
Yeah, absolutely. And Blister, we talked about this last week a little bit too, right? That end of the draft nomination strategies as well, right? Apart from doing just $1 on your final nominations.
Yeah, the worst part too, probably all three of us, is when you get to that point in the draft, you could nominate a guy for $1, and somebody's like, "Oh, well, if Slim wants him, I'll take him for $2." I don't know who that guy is, but if Slim's on it, he must be a pretty good guy. He wanted him, so that sucks too, because then all of a sudden, like I think of some of the leagues we're in where, I'll take him then for $2 if he's good.
Yeah.
So
I've never heard of him, but Blister likes him. Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice to have a little bit of extra money so you can nominate a guy for $2 or have the ability to go over the top of somebody for $2 or $3. And yeah, it's nice to have that. But yeah, I think I vaguely recall last year I wasn't in that position. I had no money left, and I just looked at my team last year and gotta regroup. Oh, but it was 14 teams. That makes it
that's right.
It makes it a little bit better, actually. Yeah. Okay.
So that idea
them?
No, it's going to be 12.
Woohoo! Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's better.
Just found that out actually the other day.
So Slim, we talked about last week this idea at the end of the draft, not nominating necessarily guys for a buck, right? Because if you nominate them for 2, 3's a long way. Going to I'll one you up you at 2, okay, but 3, that's really tough. And so being strategic and when you nominate those guys too, and looking at everybody else's value. So that's something we talked about last week. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. Again, it gives you control. There's nothing worse than throwing out a guy that you actually like for $1 and just sitting there with your fingers crossed, hoping
that no one's listening and no.
Yeah, right. I mean, so you got to really know the board. I find by the time in most drafts you get to the point where everybody has a max bid of $1, it's pretty much hot garbage most of the time, right? So there should still be some guys that you might want to take a flyer on. You should have a list that extensive, especially at running back, in my opinion. But, it's just, I want to be able to control some things in those previous rounds. So if that means I got to throw a $2 bid out, cool. I'll do that. Yeah. If it makes me, 90% sure I'm going to get the guy, I don't have no problem doing that.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So, to wrap this up, I think we had some good discussion on there because there's some things we agreed with the article, but then there was also, we took some of those items to the next level, or went a little bit of a different route with them. Blister, I'm going to put the pressure on you here first, right? Let's, we've talked about a lot of things. I want you to, for a couple of minutes here, talk about one more thing that hasn't been listed that you think is important, an important strategy, an important idea, concept, something. Slim, now you get a couple seconds to think about yours.
Well, you have to be very good with keeping tabs of what you have and what you need and how much money you have. Every budget, every auction you go into, there's going to be slightly different rules, and we know firsthand how if you fuck up, you're going to pay.
It happens.
Some people lose the first week, but you got to keep tabs of that, and it's good to stop in your auction if you got some good auctioneers and double check budgets and make sure everyone's on the same tabs. And having some good auctioneers is a good thing too. If you're doing it live, that is, having good auctioneers that kind of are consistent and they're firm, like going once, going twice, sold. And if somebody snuck it in,
they
there,
have a hard line, right?
But they're consistent all the time. So those are things that help make the auction run smoothly, and they're very important. And Slim does a good job. We take care of the auctioneers really well, look after them, and they come back. So that's a very important part of the auction. And online, online is the frustrating thing with online auctions, because I have a few and I'm trying to back off organizing them, is just having people like so many people. I want to do that. Yeah. And you're emailing them. Are you? Yeah. I mean, is it tomorrow night? Yeah. I said that last night.
Oh yeah. No, I can't.
And then oh shit, I couldn't remember how to log in. Where is it on again? How do you get into Yahoo? Or, it's like, oh, for Christ's sake, man, just go in there a couple times and log in before the night starts. Because if you don't have everybody there, you can't start. And so,
right.
Everyone's busy. Set it on your calendar. But those are some minor things, but they make a big difference in the long run.
Absolutely. And we do take good care of the auctioneers for the live draft. I mean, it's to the point where the same guys keep coming back, and it's even a night out of town. It's the whole thing. But we take good care of them, so they take good care of us. Okay, Slim, you had some thoughts. One more strategy point here.
For me, I think one of the things that I want to have multiple budgets so that I have easily pivotable, I guess, kind of pathways here. Like if I know that something happens, that I can just boom, hit the next one, and I don't have to recalculate. And it's easy with spreadsheets. Like you can literally have 4 budgets side by side, all right in front of you. And
ready to roll.
I just start picking as I'm drafting. Oh, this one's kind of fitting budget 2. So I start kind of putting my players into this one. And eventually I'm kind of committed to it now, so I can kind of really start altering this one particular budget. But, all the budgets would have different scenarios, maybe different values at quarterbacks, or maybe I got a high-end tight end in this one, so that if that happens, that, maybe I get too drunk and I get by Travis Kelce because I just couldn't help myself that day, then, at least I know what I'm going to do. I have a plan. Doesn't mean it's set in stone, but at least it gives me the framework that I can work with very quickly. And I think that's a big time saver.
Perfect. All right. Awesome, guys. So we did some auction 101. We took it a little bit to the next level, and then we added 2 more on to the end. That's good stuff. Just a reminder, someone put a premium podcast on. So that's the reminders. Head on over to the website, thefantasyfootballauction.com. Check out the membership area there.
If I could just speak to that for 1 sec.
Please do.
Quick. The plan for me this summer. So if you've purchased that, thank you. If you haven't, hopefully you decide to check it out. Essentially, I'm going to go, each podcast is going to go through sequentially, like what I think you should be doing kind of step by step. So today I looked at it like, look at your league scoring. How can we figure out a roster build that's going to fit for what this league is? Then from there, we can start looking at budgeting. What was the next thing that was kind of part of that? I kind of outlined it on the podcast and I can't remember what I said.
I didn't.
Tiering comes later. Like I said, like for right now, we don't even have to care about what the prices of players are or tiers of players right now. You don't. We're going to do that for you. Like you guys, we are all going to keep crunching the numbers and updating values, and we'll update our tier sheets and things especially now the training camps start. But for the just the regular drafter right now, you just got to come up with a plan. It doesn't matter which players go in which spots. Like that should be the least of your worries. Figure out a plan that you think's actually going to work for the league that you're in. Like, and then we can start putting in certain individuals into that roster. Once you know how many receivers you think you need, or running backs, or tight ends, or quarterbacks, based on whatever the scoring is, how many bench players, like all that stuff. And that's where this roster construction, we'll figure that out. And so I went through some things, offered a couple tools that you can find online. That can maybe help with that and things. So hopefully you find that helpful, and I'll keep going with that series here as we kind of progress through the summer.
Awesome. And that's not something that people will just be able to you have to go to the website to find, you have to be a member in order to find those premium pods. So they're there for you. And you can download them. You can listen to them on your phone. You can do whatever you want. The auction sheets are there. The tier sheets are there. Everything's there. But what I'm just going to say, if you do purchase, which is fantastic, and thank you so much for the support, just a reminder that I've got a video on how to download to Excel, or how to make a copy of that for your own. The link that you get is our live link. It's the link that we're working on, the link that Blister has been updating his ranks throughout the podcast tonight, probably. I haven't checked, Blister. I'm just saying, because you do every podcast, you're tinkering around with your rankings. But it's our live sheet. So if I give you editing access to that, then essentially you're editing our live sheets that everybody else that bought memberships are now looking at. So you either have to make a copy of that and put it into your own Google Drive, which is fine, or download it and put it into your own Excel file or whatever spreadsheet thing that you use. But just know that every time you click that link, it's the latest update that we've done. So it should have the date stamped on the top. You should see, updated as of July 25th, and it'll all be there for you. So I'm getting inundated with, can I get editing rights to the spreadsheet? No, you can't, unfortunately, because if you edit it, then you're editing everybody's spreadsheet. So make a copy or download it, and away we go. I got a video on how to do that right on the membership area. You just have to scroll down just a little. Just scroll down past the link and boom, it's right there. But or you can look at the big bold red letters across the top of the page on the
reading people
section. Big letters, and there's a link there. Or click here for the video, and then it's right there too. Or in the thank you letter that you email that you get from purchasing, it actually tells you that right in there too. So yeah, just a little bit of reading, which is fine. And I don't mind answering the few of those emails, but just a reminder that the preseason package, if you do that for $14.95, you actually get an email address to us, right? And so as the summer moves on and guys move closer to the drafts, then we're going to have access to guys are going to be looking more into those little areas, Slim, right? And that's when we'll get a little bit busier with some of that personal care, if you would. So Blister, I see you counting. Hopefully it's only up to 9. That was a joke. Too soon? Sorry.
I wasn't counting.
I thought you were counting. I saw the finger being pointed at the screen, and
Really? Was I doing that?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you're doing that. I don't know. Anyways, okay. I thought maybe you had some important point and you were pointing at me like, Bex, I need one more. I need one more point.
No, I was looking at depth charts of kickers.
Oh. I thought maybe it was the old Saturday Night Live skit. Remember when Martin Short and who was the other guy? They did the male synchronized swimming. And it's like, hey, you, I know. No, you're not angry at him. It's just like, hey, you, I know you. I know. He's wearing the nose plug and the life jacket because he doesn't swim very well. I don't think it's Farley. No, but it's a fantastic. Let's see if I can find that clip on. I'll put the sounder on there. Hey, you, I know you. I know you. Anyways, okay, guys, great pod. We made it to an hour. Blister, I'm going to see you on the golf course tomorrow. Slim, I'm not going to see you
tomorrow.
On the golf course. Not tomorrow. Sorry, Thursday. Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Today's Tuesday. Yeah. Sorry, on Thursday I'll see you on the golf course.
Okay, that sounds good.
Does that sound better?
Better.
All right. And Slim, I'm guessing we'll see you the next time we pod. I don't know what I'm gonna. Should I come bring you flowers, chocolates? Like, what do you need?
No.
I'm
good. That's cool. Thanks. So
do you need me to lift something?
I can't even get up to
answer the door.
No, my wife has to lift my leg out of bed because I can't lift it out myself. So
now this reminds me of a Fitzy and Gussie story when they were in university. They had a competition to see who could stay on the couch the longest. Really? And they stayed on the couch and they weren't allowed to touch the floor. They ordered pizza. They had the door unlocked. They had money right there at the door. It was a whole thing. And I think it was well over 24 hours that they stayed on the couch. So it's kind of where you're at, Slim, for the summer.
You do 24 hours. Yeah, well, yeah, except
no pissing, no, like it's pissing in the bottles on the couch. Like it's the whole, It was the whole thing. Yeah.
No, I couldn't. I need to get up and kind of move around a little bit, but.
Do you need me to lift anything heavy in the backyard?
No, it's okay. Thanks. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I just thought, just trying to be a pal. Just trying to be a pal. All right. So, Blister, I'll see you Thursday on the golf course. Slim.
Yeah.
I guess I'll see you next time we podcast.
I'll see you golfing next year. I won't be golfing
see me golfing next year.
Unfortunately.
Next time we pod, we'll be talking about the golf trip. And Blister will actually be there. Pretty fantastic, actually. Pretty fantastic. But I got to change the playlist if Chrissy isn't coming. Because if I'm riding with Blister in a cart, we're not playing Shotgun Messiah. Well, maybe a little bit of Shotgun Messiah, but more danger for Blister. He likes that naughty. Anyways, that's it, guys. So I'll tell you, I already told you when I'm going to see you. And for the rest of you, I'll see you when it's springtime in the Rockies.